Thousands of years ago, the land of Egypt was the center of the world's power, a civilization built on the banks of the Nile, adorned with gold and towering monuments. At its peak sat a man who claimed more than just a throne. He claimed divinity. Pharaoh, the pharaoh, ruled with an iron fist, demanding absolute ownership over the land, the people, and even the souls of his subjects. He was the ultimate superpower, a ruler who famously declared, "I am your highest lord." But beneath this facade of eternal strength lived a man consumed by fear, a man so fragile that a single dream would lead him to commit the unthinkable. Our story begins in this golden cage of tyranny, where the seeds of a revolution were about to be sown by the Lord of the worlds.
Fear is the shadow of every tyrant. One night, a vision haunted Pharaoh, a fire spreading from the direction of Jerusalem, consuming the homes of the Egyptians, but leaving the Bani Israel untouched. His advisors interpreted the dream with a chilling prophecy. A boy from the Bani Israel would be born, and he would be the cause of Pharaoh's downfall. In a desperate attempt to outrun destiny, Pharaoh issued a cold-blooded decree. Every newborn boy among the Bani Israel was to be slaughtered. He thought he could kill a prophecy with a blade. He didn't realize that when Allah plans, no wall is high enough and no decree is strong enough to stop what is written.
In the year of the killings, a child was born, Musa. His mother's heart was gripped by a terror only a parent can know, but Allah inspired her with a plan that defied human logic. She placed her infant son into a small basket and set it adrift on the Nile, the very lifeline of Egypt. With a heavy heart, she watched him float away, trusting the promise of her Lord. By divine orchestration, the basket did not drift to a stranger, but straight into the heart of the enemy's palace. It was Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh, a woman of immense light in a house of darkness, who found him. She looked at the child and felt an instant love, persuading the tyrant to spare him. Thus, the boy meant to destroy the throne was raised as a prince within the very walls that sought his death.
Musa grew up in the lap of luxury, but his heart never belonged to the palace. He walked among the people and saw the suffering of the Bani Israel, knowing his true roots. One afternoon, he witnessed an Egyptian taskmaster brutally beating an Israelite worker. In a moment of righteous anger and a desire to protect the weak, Musa intervened. He struck the Egyptian, intended only to stop him, but the blow was fatal. Overnight, the Prince of Egypt became a fugitive. Realizing that his life was now forfeit and the palace guards were searching for him, Musa made a choice. He chose a clear conscience over a crown of gold and fled into the vast, unforgiving desert, leaving behind everything he had ever known.
Exhausted and penniless, Musa arrived at a well in the land of Madian. There, he saw two women waiting to water their flock, while men pushed ahead of them. Despite his own fatigue, Musa's noble character shone through. He stepped forward and drew the water for them. This small act of kindness was his turning point. He sat under the shade of a tree, praying, "My Lord, I am in desperate need of whatever good you send down to me." His prayer was answered immediately. He was invited to meet their father, the Prophet Shuaib, who offered him safety, a home, and a family. For 10 years, the former prince lived as a simple shepherd, a period of reset where his soul was tempered for the mission that lay ahead.
After 10 years, Musa began the journey back to Egypt with his family. On a cold night near Mount Sinai, he saw a fire in the distance. Leaving his family, he approached the flames, but what he found was not a fire. It was the divine light. In the sacred valley of Tua, the Lord of the world spoke to him. Musa was commanded to take off his sandals and listen. He was given two signs, a staff that turned into a serpent and a hand that glowed with a celestial light. The shepherd was now a messenger.
His mission was the most daunting task imaginable: to return to the heart of the empire and tell the man who claimed to be God to set the people free. He asked for his brother Harun to accompany him, and with divine backing, they set off to confront the tyrant.
Musa and Harun entered the throne room of Firaun. The contrast was striking. Two men in simple robes standing before a king draped in the finest silk and gold. Musa delivered the message with courage, calling Firaun to recognize the true Lord of the worlds and release the Bani Israel. Firaun's response was one of mockery and arrogance. He reminded Musa of his past and the life he owed the palace. But Musa did not flinch. When Firaun demanded proof, Musa threw down his staff and it became a massive, living serpent. Even as the courtiers trembled, Firaun's pride blinded him. He dismissed the miracle as mere magic and challenged Musa to a public duel against the greatest sorcerers in the land.
The day of the festival arrived. Thousands gathered to watch the showdown. The magicians of Egypt, seeking favor and wealth, threw their ropes and staffs, using illusions to make them appear like slithering snakes. The crowd gasped in awe. Then Musa, with the command of Allah, threw his staff. It didn't just compete with their magic. It transformed into a real serpent that swallowed every single illusion the magicians had created. In that moment, the truth was undeniable. The magicians, being experts in their craft, knew this wasn't magic. It was divine. They fell prostrate, declaring their belief in the Lord of Musa and Harun. Firaun, enraged by their betrayal, threatened them with death, but they chose the eternal over the temporary.
Following his humiliation, Firaun's heart grew harder. He increased the oppression of the Bani Israel, leading to a series of divine warnings. Egypt was struck by the signs. The Nile turned to blood. Swarms of locusts devoured the crops. Lice infested the land. Frogs covered the streets, and a deep darkness fell. Each time a plague struck, Firaun would beg Musa to ask Allah to lift it, promising freedom. But as soon as the relief came, he broke his word. These weren't just punishments, they were opportunities to reflect. Yet Firaun's hustle and pride were so deep that he chose to believe his own lies. He looked at the sky and saw only himself, never realizing his empire was crumbling under the weight of his own arrogance.
The time for the final departure had come. Under the cover of night, Musa led the Bani Israel out of Egypt. Thousands of men, women, and children walked toward the Red Sea, hoping for a new life. But as the sun rose, they heard the thundering of hoods. Firaun, realizing his slaves were escaping, had gathered his entire army, the most powerful military force of the time, to pursue them. The Bani Israel found themselves trapped, a vast deep sea in front of them, and a vengeful tyrant with chariots and spears behind them. Panic spread through the ranks. They cried out, "We are surely overtaken." But Musa, with unwavering faith, responded, "Nay, indeed. With me is my Lord. He will guide me."
With the army closing in, Allah commanded Musa to strike the sea with his staff. As the wood touched the water, the impossible happened. The Red Sea split apart, the water rising like massive, towering mountains on either side, revealing a dry path through the center. It was a spectacle of divine power that defied every law of nature. Musa led his people into the heart of the sea. They walked between walls of water that held back millions of tons of pressure by the command of the Creator. It was the ultimate exit for a people who had known only chains for generations, and the ultimate test for the king who thought he was a god.
Firaun reached the shore and saw the miraculous path. His soldiers hesitated, but his ego would not allow him to stop. He believed the sea had parted for him, or perhaps his arrogance made him think he could conquer the ocean itself. He commanded his army into the seabed. As the last of the Bani Israel stepped onto the opposite shore, and the last of the Egyptian army reached the middle of the crossing, the command was given. The walls of water, held back by divine decree, began to collapse. The roaring of the sea returned. The chariots were swept away, the horses drowned, and the gold of the empire became a weight that dragged them into the depths. In his final moments, as the salt water filled his lungs and the darkness of the deep surrounded him, Pharaoh's pride finally broke. He cried out, "I believe that there is no God except He in whom the children of Israel believe, and I am of the Muslims." But it was too late. Submission born of the fear of death after a lifetime of arrogance was not accepted. Allah declared that his body would be preserved as a sign for all generations to come. The man who claimed to be the highest power ended at the lowest point of the ocean. He who wanted to be remembered as a god would instead be remembered as the ultimate warning against human arrogance.
The story of Musa and Firaun did. Today, the mummified body of a pharaoh, believed to be the one of the Exodus, lies in a museum, a silent witness to the truth of the Quranic promise. This day we shall deliver your body, that you may be a sign to those after you. The empire of gold is gone. The pyramids are ruins of a past age, and the tyrant is a museum exhibit. But the message of Musa, of justice, faith, and the triumph of truth over tyranny, remains as vibrant and necessary today as it was on the shores of the Red Sea thousands of years ago.
What can we learn from this epic history? First, the personal brand illusion. Pharaoh represents the danger of believing our own success is solely our own doing, forgetting the one who gave us strength. Second, pride is a blindness that prevents us from seeing the truth right in front of us. And finally, submission is the highest power. The man who puts his forehead on the ground in prayer is the one who truly reaches the stars. If you found value in this journey, please like this video and share it to spread the wisdom. Don't forget to subscribe and comment below. What part of Musa A.S. story inspires you the most? Until next time, stay grounded in truth.